Hey everybody, Ryan here. Unfortunately, we had some issues with this episode's audio that we didn't realize until it was too late. So as a result, Joanna and I do not sound very good. In particular, I sound like a bad, AM college radio signal. It is gross. And we're really sorry about that. We've taken care of the problem, and it won't happen again in future episodes. But we decided to get this one out to you since we really enjoyed it anyway. If it helps, you can just pretend it fits into the old-timey 1955 nature of the movie. So, without any further ado, here's Episode 3, Godzilla Raids Again. Enjoy. There is a legend of one man who persuaded his friends to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. This world is on the brink of destruction. We need you now, Godzillavangelists! Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, produced and hosted by Ryan Sargent, featuring Sam Schlenker and Joanna Brodecki. So, welcome to Godzillavangelists, a podcast about Japanese tuna fishing as of this week, as we cover the thrilling movie Godzilla Raids Again, the second movie in the extensive Godzilla canon. And, of course, as always, I have with me my lovely co-hosts, Sam and Joanna. Hey. How are you guys doing today?
Oh, sorry. I was early.
Don't speak until spoken to.
Well, that was confusing. How are you, Joanna?
I'm doing really great. I had a wonderful weekend.
That sounds sarcastic.
This is funny because it's the first time we've all seen each other during this, so there's going to be a lot more of us just laughing for no reason to you listeners.
Fortunately, we brought some extra people to laugh at you today.
Oh, good.
We have two special extra guest stars. Mr. Ed Baker and Sandra Cheng are here with us today.
Hello.
Hello.
So I just want to say that the way you introduced us, you said that we were special, extra guest stars, whereas I would like to emphasize that we're not special in that way, but we are extra special.
You are special in the sense that you were our first guest stars, so that's worth something.
Oh, awesome! That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You never
should
forget
feel very
that.
honored.
Yeah.
Ed is a comedian, a magician, and the founder of Cinephile Video, which gave you some experience in giant monster movies, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I just want to say, co-founder.
Oh, okay. That's
I don't want to misrepresent. I didn't do everything myself, but yeah.
For sure. And Sandra is also a comedian because, so much of this podcast is the Godzilla evangelism. I want to know how much Godzilla experience you guys have, how much I have to bring you into the fold, bring you into my flock.
Oh, I definitely need to hear the word, because I grew, when I grew up, Godzilla movies were on TV all the time, just constantly. But the truth is, I never sat down and said, "Oh, I'm going to watch Godzilla versus Mothra from beginning to end," or any of them. It was on. I watched it, and at this point in my life, I don't think I could tell you what is from what movie or any of that. It's all a blur.
Had you seen any of this one, though?
Not that I remember, no.
That's the crazy thing about this one, is I saw this a week ago, and I don't remember a thing about it.
Me too.
like you could tell me what happened, and it would be like a complete surprise.
Yeah, it does have that effect.
That it does.
I keep thinking of things, and then I'm like, oh, that was the first movie. Right. So, wait, what?
Understandable. This is not a superior Godzilla product. It's unfortunate that after the first movie, which is really so good, we have a fall to like almost the worst one of all of them. It's super derivative. It was very quickly made within a year of the first one coming out, and has not too much of the love and film expertise that went into the first Godzilla, but it is a lot of goofy fun. Or at least that's what I thought watching this time. What was you guys' first impression?
Boy, you know, I like watching this one was the most fun viewing experience of the bunch, and I remember just walking out of watching it with you guys and being like, that was so much fun. And then again, I remember the experience of having fun watching it, and that is it. So I don't have feelings on this one. But I feel like I'll come to them by the end of this podcast when I'm reminded of what I watched.
You describe it like an alien abduction. It's just like, I have a feeling that something's wrong. The time was missing, but I don't know what happened.
No, seriously, like I keep having these little weird flashbacks to it, and I'm like, was that real? Was there ice and an explosion at one point? And
Well,
we need to put you under aggressive hypnosis.
yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah, and Sam, the butt pain has nothing to do with the movie.
I was wondering where that came from. That's kind of a relief to know.
Yeah, that's entirely Ed's experiments.
Yeah.
How about you guys, Ed and Sandra? What's your just off the cuff gut feeling about Godzilla Raids Again?
Well, I had a great time. I thought it was hilarious. But that's because I love these kind of bad movies. And I hope you don't just cut me off the podcast when I call it a bad movie, but that's...
That's why we're all here.
That's good. It's a fun bad.
That's fair enough. I've admitted from the top I can't win them all. So I gotta pick my battles, and this is not one I can win. There's not too much to recommend Godzilla Raids Again, which is why we watched the American version, which is even worse than the Japanese version. We just decided to lean full on into the terrible, which I think was a successful move. But yeah, in fact, although the title card on this DVD was sloppily digitally replaced when this movie came out in America originally, it was called Gigantus the Fire Monster. And at no point in the whole movie does anyone refer to Godzilla as Godzilla. They call him Gigantus, which is kind of a mystery, but the prevailing theory is they don't think they had the Warner Brothers, who distributed this one, thought they didn't have the rights to use Godzilla's name in the United States.
Huh.
So they decided to give him a new one. But no matter what name you give to this movie, it sure is a wild ride. So let's get into it.
Let's.
Alright, so this movie starts out with a super bizarre prologue that has absolutely nothing to do with what comes
It
after.
was so long, too. It was so long.
Joanna, do you not like the beginning of any movie? Because I remember you not liking the title sequence to the first one.
Too long.
Joanna, do you not like being educated?
No, I just want to get to it. I think me sitting on the floor watching it didn't help my viewing experience either, which I had hoped wouldn't factor in at all, but I fear it might have, but we'll see.
Again, butt pain is part of this experience.
You know, a thought other than the butt pain that I had was it right off the bat reminds me of Plan 9. Like, that kind of narration where it's like overly poetic and like really trying to be smart, but just so stupid. like, you know, these dastardly man-made machines combating the creature until all that is left is a subtle nuance of an idea of a mountain. You know, that was off the dome, in case you didn't know that.
Wow.
You were not that far off the actual opening title.
Well, it's like the part in Plan 9 where what Bela Lugosi is like outside of his house picking flowers. Imagine that kind of narration, maybe like 20 minutes of this movie. Amazing.
Yeah,
I would say even more, maybe.
It could be.
But before we get into the narration itself, just to describe this prologue a little bit, it's all stock footage. It was all added to the American version. And it's like rockets launching and like satellite dishes slowly turning and meteors flying through space. Absolutely nothing to do with what comes after. And then we get our title card, and we meet our protagonists, the lovable duo of Tsukioka and Kobayashi, who are spotters for a fishing fleet. They fly their little biplanes around and they see big schools of fish, and they say, oh, the fishing ships should go there, which is a super weird job.
I literally just remembered right now what the movie was about. When you mentioned them, I'm like, oh, it's all coming back now. But
yes, it's all about
up
fish.
to that point, I was like, don't know where we're going.
I mean, that's ostensibly what it's about. I don't know if you could actually say that's what it's about, though.
Interesting that
It's a key
that just
fact.
right off the bat, the scope of the first is it's about a naval captain and like a professor and an old man on an island. Those, you know, like people with really important jobs apart from the old man. But this one is about like fishing pilots. Like, it just doesn't have the same je ne sais quoi.
People too.
Right, and I think that's something important about this is that the characters have almost no agency because of that. Like, they have no authoritative role. Like, Dr. Yamada, he's an important professor, and Ogata, he's in the Navy, so they're people that can kind of, like, have some decision over what happens to Godzilla, but these guys are just like, well, I guess we'll ride it out. And about this time, about 5 minutes into the movie, about 4 of them have had just constant narration in a bad Asian accent.
Oh, yes.
Oh my god, the worst. And they kept switching, and they were all different. And some people didn't have them. It was very, I was confused.
Yeah, I have a couple notes on that first block of narration. One of which is I've never heard like laughing in the narration like this, where like he's narrating and he's like, you know, alas, we began to turn left and head upwind. That was something. It's like, what? That's so funny. And then the second thought was, and this is hearkening to the bad Asian accent. Is not only a bad Asian accent, it's like pidgin English dialogue voiceover. Where at one point he says, and I quote, "I could see the ship turning on a happy course," which is like, oh boy.
What, you've never seen that?
No, that.
Oh, you've only seen the sad ships, yeah.
I just almost immediately we started looking at each other and just like, is this just me or is this weird? Like, there's this implicit recognition in the room that something bizarre is going on. So these guys are buddies, and Kobayashi's plane starts to malfunction though, and he has to make an emergency landing on this cold, sort of desolate island in the ocean. And Tsukioka goes and lands to like save him, but for some reason they don't leave right away. They like start building a little campfire and hanging out.
They're buddies, you know. They're enjoying some time on their own.
You guys, I was genuinely touched by their friendship. That was the one thing I really liked, is the love they shared. I really appreciated.
It was good.
Yeah. It's great now. I have some thoughts about this, the way this friendship plays out later.
Oh. Did you want more romance, Sam?
This bromance ends in tragedy.
Yes, this movie does have its own tragedies. Of course, much less effective than those in the original movie. Uh, but before we get to that, we got to talk about the monsters, which show up very quickly. These two buddies, they build their campfire, and almost immediately, another Godzilla appears, and he's fighting with this big, spiky dinosaurian monster named Anguillus, or Anguirus, but when I grew up, it was Anguillus, so Anguillus it will be.
Oh, I thought it was Angry Anus.
And it's hard to believe that you're older than us.
It's all coming back to butt jokes. That's all I'm doing.
Honestly,
Honestly,
I'm challenging you to find a way to sneak like 7 butt jokes into this.
So yeah, what did you guys think of Anguillus, our second monster in the series?
I thought he was pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
I thought, I don't know, he stood a chance of winning.
Yeah, there's not much personality to him. He's just like constantly fighting Godzilla.
I think, to be honest, in oh my gosh, what's the name of that kids movie? Why can't I? Land Before Time.
Uh-huh.
He didn't really look like them with just the spikes up and down their back, but I found some semblance, and because of that, I was like, yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah. Sandra,
Oh yeah, he looks like a durian fruit.
So our fisherman pilots escape the island, they fly off, and they are all of a sudden in front of this panel of scientists who have gathered around this like delicate tablecloth in a conference
What a
room.
tablecloth it is.
And
What a detail.
it was pretty good.
I know this, like, I just remember that because I have this written down as a Joanna quote. She's like, "Wow, look at that tablecloth. It's so nice."
I said, I have no memory
Honestly,
of that. Glad you
10
caught it.
minutes in, and Joanna was trying to find something to like.
This panel of scientists is like passing around this children's book of dinosaurs and like showing the fishermen different dinosaurs in it, like they just got mugged. It's like a photo lineup of dinosaurs. Like, okay, who's the one that hit you?
Show me on this children's
I like
book
that
where the
part, yeah.
dinosaur touched you.
I think we know the answer.
Where was it in?
That's number 5.
That's number
That's
5.
where the anus is in.
Wait, should have given you a higher number than 11 because we're gonna get there fast.
But yeah, they pick out Anguillus and they're like, "Oh yeah, Godzilla was there too," or at least I think they do in the Japanese version. They kind of just gloss over that in the American version.
Well, one of the things in the book that I liked was that it supposedly a children's book, but these scientists are referencing it as science, and it said these creatures may come back to life. Like, that's in the book. Okay, I don't know.
It is, and it's even better. They say that let's see, I have it. This monster could return to life if imbued with nuclear energy, and I'm glad that was in a textbook.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, how did they... I thought this was all fairly new information, but...
Also strange words that come out of this scientific professional's mouth is when they pick out Anguillus, he says, "This is bad." Like some other giant monster wouldn't have been such a big deal.
Well, that's the first thing that was my thought was they continued. They're talking about like Yamane mentions the Tokyo attack, and he's like, "Guys, it's just like that. Remember the Tokyo attack?" And everyone's like, "Nah, you crazy old man. That never happened."
Yeah, they're like, nah.
Like, you would absolutely remember that.
Yeah.
That just happened, and it killed thousands of people,
think.
probably.
The whole world knew.
There's also, this is a little bit more subtle, but I still like that they refer to Anguillus as the killer of the living. That's his like Latin
Boy.
name translation. Yeah.
He really narrowed down his target.
Dr. Yamane shows up in a thankless cameo, and you feel so bad for him because he looks miserable like the whole time. He's in it for about 5 minutes. Like, one of Japan's greatest and most beloved actors at the time has just this little 5-minute cameo, and he looks as unhappy to be there as we are. But yeah, Joanna, I know that Dr. Yamane was near and dear to your heart, so I have to know how you felt about seeing him in this.
Far too short.
What?
I was ready for him to really be involved again, but he scooted out of there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I blinked and he was gone, and my heart was shattered.
I don't blame him, though. Like, after what he went through in the first movie, I could give him a pass. I can understand why he'd be like, all right, you guys handle this one.
You think he was written in more of the scenes, and he just was like, no fucking way, I'm going to be in more of this movie.
It's like, I'll give you 1 week on set.
Yeah, oh, not even that. He's like, I'll be in that one scene, and only because of the tablecloth. And the rest, no deal.
In fact, that was his tablecloth. They asked to borrow it. And he was like, I have to be there if you're going to use my tablecloth.
The two good things in the movie were him and his tablecloth.
But yeah, Dr. Yamane cues up a film which is pretty hilarious, and it goes on even longer than the prologue. He shows all these scientists and these fishermen a little movie, which is partially stock footage of like different dinosaur movies with varying special effects. And then eventually it cuts to like footage from the first Godzilla showing Godzilla's rampage. But yeah, to no one's surprise, all the stock footage was also added by the American distributor for some unknown reason. But they mix in like all these other dinosaur movies. There's like a little puppet peeking his head out of a swamp. There's these poor lizards that have frills glued onto their back, and they're like wrestling with each other or maybe having sex. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
It does not match. It doesn't match at all with Godzilla and Anguillus. In any case,
no. But again, we move on. We move past the stock footage, and we're just seeing scenes from the first one, and there's no reason to show these men this. They should remember. Chances are a loved one died.
Right. But no, they need a good reminder.
Well, it was a different city, right?
Oh,
sure.
Good point.
The biggest city.
It's just like LA denizens, we have no idea what's happening in New York right now. New York could be
Or
gone.
San Diego.
Honestly, for all we know, Silver Lake was just attacked by a giant monster.
That could be.
We wouldn't even know.
But yeah, they see this film, and the military's like, yo, we got to put a plan into action. And Dr. Yamane says, well, these monsters came from fire. They must be attracted to fire. So the military makes a plan to launch some flares into the air and hopefully steer Godzilla away from Osaka by making him look at the pretty lights. And while they're doing this, Tsukioka is having a little romance with his girlfriend Hidemi. They're going out, they're dancing. They have a very weird interlude on a ship, which has one of the most famous Godzilla dubbing lines in the whole series, where she says something to him like, I think you're the bravest man I've ever met. And he says, banana oil, which is not really understandable. And there's actually a great article in a Godzilla fan magazine where they tried to find out where that came from. And they found it in a 20s slang dictionary. So there's this like brief period of time where people would say like, banana oil, when they were saying like, bullshit. And
Bring it back.
Yeah. That was actually, let me reveal a little more trivia to you guys here.
Oh boy.
One of the dub artists on this movie, one of the voice actors for the American dub, was a very young George Takei.
Ooh.
And they actually had him help with the translation. And in an interview, he explained that banana oil came about because it was the only thing that would match the mouth movements of bakana, which meant silly or stupid in Japanese. But the important part about this is that George Takei is in this movie, you guys.
Bakana oil. He is.
I just want to say that maybe this podcast can bring back banana oil. If you guys can just push it, just make it the thing that the kids are saying.
I think we can do it. I think that's a great idea.
I didn't know banana
do it.
made
You can
oil.
do it.
To me,
That's actually brilliant. That's my new goal.
That's your
And
mission.
So, guys, whenever you want to like disparage something, just start saying banana oil.
Keep it in the back pocket. I see you.
Yeah. But as long as we're on the dub artists, another Joanna quote I had down is she turned to me while Kobayashi was talking and said, "This guy sounds like Fred Flintstone." And guys, sure enough, Kobayashi is dubbed by Dawes Butler,
No.
who would go on to do the voice of Fred Flintstone and Yogi Bear.
No, what?
I win.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm so happy right now. I'm like, ah.
That is amazing.
That's crazy.
Guys, none of y'all caught it.
Yabba dabba doo.
So we have Sulu and
What a cast.
Fred Flintstone in
Yeah.
this movie.
What's weird is that I had written down that somebody sounded like Wilma Flintstone, but I don't even remember who I was thinking.
That was the child bride.
The child,
Oh,
sorry,
don't
sorry,
spoil
we'll
the
get there.
child bride. That's gonna come back later.
child bride spoiler.
So, question about the flares that they're firing off. That wasn't a thing in the first one, was it? That suddenly Godzilla likes pretty shiny things?
No, this is added. And when we get to the changes from Japanese, I actually have an interesting bit to share about why they explained it in the Japanese version. And it's actually much cooler. But yeah, no, this is totally new.
The explanation in this one was light seems to enrage these creatures and also to attract them.
That's right.
That was how they explained it.
Were they just planning on any time they came near, just throw some lights out into the sea? Like, that seems like not a final answer, you know?
Right.
That seems
But
like,
I mean,
a lot of money, to be honest.
You know, this is also a true point. Why would you want to either enrage or attract the monster? Those are two things you don't want to do. If anything, they should say, don't shoot flares into the air.
But they are shooting them away. So they're trying to attract and enrage the monsters in another direction.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
they'll come back. Oh, well.
And I will say this much, because I was looking desperately for nice things to say. The model planes in this movie look a lot better than in the original. They did figure out how to do planes a little bit better. So I was proud of them for that.
Wait, you mean that one
We'll
shot
give them
that we
half a
saw
point.
like 10 times?
Oh, speaking of seeing a shot 10 times, before we move past the meeting with Dr. Yamane and company, there is a freeze frame reaction shot.
Oh, yes.
There's a shot where Yamane says
Solid.
something and it cuts to another man in the room and the guy doesn't move and you realize that he is absolutely just a still frame that they're cutting to for about 3 seconds. Like, there might as well have been like a Newton's cradle suspended in midair on the table and like a clock not moving behind him.
So, yeah, they're launching these flares and it's actually working. Godzilla's like looking at them and wandering back to sea. And everybody's having a good time. We go downtown.
Wait, did we pass the newspaper?
I think there have been some newspapers to this
Yeah,
point.
We
Yeah.
should speak to these because this is honestly the best
I
part of
think
the
we
movie. This
need
is the
to
one
talk
thing I
about the
remember.
newspaper.
Yeah, there are a good deal of spinning newspapers added to this movie.
So many.
Were they in the Japanese cut?
No, they were not.
Okay, so these are American-made. Well, I mean, I guess they'd have to for the American one anyway because they're in English. But they're those classic spinning newspapers with splashy headlines. Except they're the least splashy headlines you've ever read. They're like, I wrote down my favorite one, which is 2 men arrested as money is paid, which is like not a headline.
Yeah, my
For
personal
drugs.
favorite was Chinese pirates attack, British sailor dead, or something like that.
Honestly, that's funny, but it's probably the most headliney like of the group. Like most of them were extremely not interesting.
Okay, how about this one? Engineers finish 10-year research.
that is what I'm talking about.
That's an exciting headline.
Or this classic. Only 4 witnesses called by defense at flogging trial.
Wait, at flogging trial?
Yeah, flogging trial.
No, I don't know.
It's really subpar reporting, and I just couldn't help but think of what Steve Martin would say if he had to read these newspapers.
Honestly, he couldn't care less.
No. See, I think he'd be like, I started off the morning with a good read of the front page of the Osaka Times to keep me informed on what was happening in the area around me. I think he'd be stoked on it, like, every day.
Really? Because I can't imagine...
A nice cup of Joe in the Osaka Times. Yeah,
honestly, I couldn't bring myself to read anything but Cairo's newspaper, and I found myself bored by their Japanese ways.
I forgot he loves Cairo.
Yeah, do you think he finally got to Cairo? Do you think that's where he's
I hope
chilling
so,
out?
just for everyone around him's sake, so we could shut up about it.
I like to think that like a sphinx attacked there and murdered him. Like he died in that movie.
Anyway, so they're having a good time. The flares are being launched, but trouble is a brewing. There is a truck full of convicts that's being transported.
Classic move. Yeah.
The most dangerous
Yep.
convicts.
The most.
Osaka Suicide
Yes.
Squad.
Yeah.
These very rough-looking characters. Toho's stable of ugly men.
They actually included, according to the movie, murderers, thieves, and general criminals. Those are the 3 categories.
Dangerous tax criminals.
At the time, the only 3 crimes that you could be charged in Japan for were murder, robbery, and general crime.
I killed a man. What are you in here for? Oh, just general crime.
General crime.
Sorry.
But yeah, they in a very clumsy way, they escape and they run all over everywhere, and the cops are immediately on their tail.
Wait, not in the
But-
clumsy, Ryan. They were very coordinated. I was very impressed.
Oh, okay.
That's
Well,
it. Keep going.
defend their technique. No, please. If you have something to say.
I also want to say, this is one part of the movie where we all kind of perked up. We were
Yeah,
like, hey,
they had a lot of
this-
looks
this
going back
movie's
and
kinda
forth.
good.
It's true.
Like one guy did one move, and at the same time the other person stood up. When did they coordinate this all? Because it must happen pretty fast, unless they've just been scheming for years while sitting in prison for their general crime.
That's the thing I think is there's, we have kind of the classic Godzilla popping up in the water, Gigantus popping up in the water and, and the army going after it. And then we cut away to just a bunch of convicts kind of trying to do their escape. And we hang out with them for a really long time. Like, we don't go back.
A long time.
We just stay there with the convicts. And I also wrote down that when the police car comes after them, one of the convicts says, "Good thing this car came along." Seems like the opposite of what you'd want.
Also,
Wait, no.
No,
It's
they
the cop.
needed a
It's a
car.
cop that
Oh, the
says
cop
it.
says that about the convicts?
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, what happens is
Good thing these
the truck
convicts are
drives
long.
by, then Tsukioka and Kobayashi are hanging out as bros, and they drive by, and the cops are like, "Let us use your car," and then he says, "Good thing this car came by."
About their car.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize they were connected to this scene at all.
Well, the other weird thing is that the main character, I forget his name every time you say it,
Tsukioka.
Tsukioka, he is narrating this and explaining the convicts' motivation. Where, like, when they're in the truck, he's like, and they devised a plan because all of them had the same thing in mind: escape. It was like, what, how does he know that? Where was he?
Yeah. Was it in the newspaper?
It probably was.
Several convicts plan escape amidst thinking about things.
It was too interesting. It's a page 2.
He put departures and arrivals on page 1. But
That's right, they did.
Page 2.
Look, I'm sorry to our audience that we're hyper-focused on these newspapers, but seriously, if you watch the movie with us, go back. I don't care if you rent it again, and pause on the newspapers. It's worth your time and money all by itself. We also suspected that there was perhaps a secret libertarian bent behind whoever wrote the newspapers, because every page had something about, like, how taxes were ruining the country.
That's right.
But anyway, so the convicts, they escape, they get in a gas truck. Well, not all of them, but 3 of them do. And the police pursue them, and the convicts just, like, wildly drive the car, and they flip it over, and it crashes into a refinery. And the whole refinery catches on fire, and Godzilla's like, that's way more interesting than a few flares. I'm gonna hang out there.
Was that was the connection? Was that they started a fire that it?
Yes.
I never put that together.
Sam,
Oh.
really?
What?
Sam.
I think you're alone on this.
He was attracted and enraged at the same time.
I never put that together. That I always just thought we just took a break to follow some convicts. I had no idea.
I feel like they
I was
said
really
it. I
trying
think
to
the
figure it
narrative
out.
said it like
I like Sam's version better.
he was like, I like this
loved it.
storyline.
It
All
was
right.
It was like Slacker for a minute.
But I was waiting. I was still waiting. For a good 30 minutes after this on why we showed them. And what connection I had to Gigantus.
Not only Godzilla comes back to shore, but Anguillus sees the fire too, and they start fighting again. And they have a big old fight. The very first giant monster fight of the series, Godzilla versus Anguillus fighting in Osaka. What did everybody think of this epic battle?
It definitely got epic.
This was where they showed all those up close bites, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really thought you were saying butts, but yeah.
They were just really rolling through town. They destroyed everything pretty quick.
I understand that you guys are probably thinking, like, it's like a giant monster fight. What more is there to say about it? But guess what? There's a giant monster fight in almost every movie after this, so you better figure out what you can say about giant monster fight.
Okay. Maybe I need to be more focused next time.
Better start now.
I thought you were trying to say, you better recognize this is the first one that set it all up.
When you mentioned that the tiny planes are a lot better in this one than the first one, what definitely is not better is the monster movement. Is very questionable.
No.
Because their fight, they like undercrank the fight at times, so that it looks like an old movie when someone's driving really fast and it feels like you're just fast forwarding through tape.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And also Godzilla's screech, or Anguillus, his screech. The screech is awful. But
The Godzilla.
Yes. Well, do they both have the same screech?
Yeah, so that is a bizarre change to the American version, is that they took Angullus's roar and dubbed it over Godzilla's roar like almost every time in the movie.
Oh.
I think you only get to hear Godzilla's roar like twice towards the end. It's like they thought Angullus's roar sounded way better, but it just makes it confusing because you're not sure who's going where because of it.
Yeah. I also really like that sound effect because it reminded me of the strange ghostly noise from Neil Breen's Fateful Findings. And I only mention that because I want everyone to go watch Fateful Findings. But it really was the same sound. It's like...
If you enjoyed this film and enjoyed that noise, go watch Fateful Findings, because Ed is the one who told me about it, and it's the best bad. I mean, it's seriously like people love The Room, and The Room is hilarious. Fateful Findings is like it and more, maybe. I think it's really special.
So they fight. Godzilla wins. He takes a big old bite out of Angulus's neck, and Angulus roars so loud that this big Japanese castle starts to crack.
That was
and
nice.
breaks apart. Which I thought was cool. That's the part that I always remember.
Yeah, I like that. Was cool.
Although it is edited very confusingly.
Yes.
In the American version. It's like the cracks come before the roar in that one. But Godzilla kills Angulus, the whole city's destroyed. He's 2 for 2. He took out Tokyo, he took out Osaka. And much like the original Godzilla, we have the morning after, we see the wreckage, but it's not nearly as affecting. It's not nearly as tragic.
It was so quick.
Yeah, it's sort of it's almost glazed over. Like the manager of the cannery that they all work at stands in the rubble with his business partner, and I wonder if somebody wrote this down. But if not, I'll take a crack.
I wrote a line down.
Okay,
I wrote it.
all right.
Okay.
What does he say?
Actually, it's an exchange, which is the owner of the cannery speaking to, I can't remember now which one of the two of our two heroes it was, but he's speaking to him and he says, and our hero says, "I don't quit." Like when they're talking about rebuilding the place.
Yes.
Says, "I don't quit." And then the cannery guy goes, "Good to know. When do we begin?"
Just
That's
so
it.
quick.
We're all in. We're gonna fix the world.
That was
We're gonna
it?
Fix the. There was a lot
Gung
of
ho.
death and destruction, but we're in. Good to know. I mean, you don't quit.
I think also, like in this film, they didn't have the mother saying a line of "We'll be with Daddy soon," whatever that was. So that also, just didn't bring it down to that level. Not having that.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, everyone was quite cheerful and optimistic.
it's true. And in Sandra, you missed out because in the original Godzilla, there's these great tragic moments, including like Joanna was saying, there's this tearful mother and her kids who are like surrounded by flames and they're obviously gonna die, and she's like, "We'll be with your daddy soon." It's like heart
It's
wrenching.
terrible. Oh.
And in this movie, you don't see anybody die, and you're right. They're just like, "Oh, we'll make the best of it," and they start cleaning up the burned out cannery. But we gotta get on with the movie. So the head of the cannery is like, Tsukioka and Kobayashi, you're going to Hokkaido. We'll finish up here.
I like that you just like threw your arms with that. You're like, "Woo! It's a party."
It seems very flippant. He just like spontaneously decides. He's like, "You guys go to Hokkaido," and that's cool. So like, without barely any reflection on this rampage, we're like relocated to snowy Hokkaido, and everything's beautiful, and everybody's having a good time. They have a party. They get a little bit drunk, and one of my favorite things about this scene is that Hidemi,
Yes.
the girlfriend, looks about as miserable as any girlfriend at a party full of 8 dudes is. She's not at all happy.
Why
But
were there 2 parties? Was one like the bosses and the rest were the other people?
yeah, there's like the old army buddies or something, and then there's also like a company party. This scene was like cut down hugely in the American version, so it's kind of incomprehensible. But one thing
Why is there a party? It seems like a bad time to party.
Good point.
It really does. Something that does happen about this time that is very distracting and confusing is Hidemi starts talking to Kobayashi, and he's like, "Oh, there's this girl I like, and I have a picture of her in my book, but I'm not going to let you see. But I want your help, like, picking out a present for her." And it's, like, very strange. It's, like, middle school crush.
And all her lines are always like, "Ooh, boys love girls, girls love boys." Like, she's like, that's like the only thing she talks about, the only way she talks.
Wait, did we skip?
We skipped
Did we skip
business.
business?
I don't know.
That's about this time.
Yeah.
I think it's
There's
before they left, though.
There's a really fantastic line that Hidemi drops that makes everybody laugh.
Joanna, do you want to take it?
I don't know what the lead-in to it was.
I don't think any of us do.
Something about business. I only say this because I feel like you identify with Hidemi being the one girl at a party of 8 dudes, usually.
No, first of all, so her father says, no, you can't go with them. You have to manage files. And she goes, oh, I forgot. Like, very, just so dumb sounding. It made me so upset. And then at one point, she went, business? All men are like fish in a woman's net. And that was it.
That's the line.
That's the line.
Yep, everybody laughs and fade to black, and it's the next scene. No real explanation over what that means.
It went back, I think, when they were on the island earlier, the two of them, right when he got rescued, he was like, trying to please a woman is like swimming in the sea. So I appreciated how they're just they all live in this world where these phrases make full sense to me.
Honestly, when you're a fish pilot,
so true.
When you're a fish pilot, the only frame of reference you have for romantic things is fish metaphors. You know what I mean?
That's true. Maybe this movie is a big hit among Japanese fishermen, and we just don't know.
It really speaks to them. They're like, oh my god, you're right. Trying
like,
to please a woman is like swimming in the sea.
Yeah, like they say it all the time. I don't know, because then like half of her character arc was like, ooh, show me the picture of the girl. You know?
That's
that
true.
was
but when you see the picture of the girl and the girl's age, it seems like she was right to ask about it.
It's just a pigtail.
Alright, so let me explain this a little bit. So, their party is interrupted when they get the message that Godzilla has sunk some of their fishing boats. And so the next day, Kobayashi's like, I'm going out to look for Godzilla. Hold on to my book for me. Or I don't know, maybe he leaves it by accident. I think he leaves it by accident, actually.
Supposedly.
And Hidemi opens it, and the picture makes me a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know about you guys.
It's a picture of what's his name again? Kobayashi?
Yeah.
Kobayashi. It has 2 pictures in the middle of the book, and it's Kobayashi in his big old Fred Flintstone and his big Fred Flintstone face, and a picture of, like, I swear, an 11-year-old girl with pigtails.
Yeah.
And that is supposedly the love that he hopes to someday ask out, someday marry.
Yeah, in 7 years. Yeah.
I don't think he's willing to wait 7 years.
You guys, when my brother first moved to Japan, he was dating a woman for about 2 months, and they just never discussed their age, apparently, over the course of 2 months. And then eventually things ended, and he found out that she was 37 and he was 24 at the time, and not that he just like thought she was like 26, and she thought that he was like 35 or 38. And she had been like divorced once. He's like, I literally thought she had like gotten out of school a few years before. And like, I'm like, how'd you date for that long? But yeah.
Wow.
Just as far as
that. So who knows? Maybe Kobayashi's girlfriend is like 40, and we just don't know.
Or
she just likes.
Or younger than we thought.
She's either 40 or 4. Definitely nothing in between. But not to dwell on this too much. There's just like a weird moment where Hidemi looks at it and she has kind of this shocked look on her face, and it's not really comprehensible, except that his girlfriend's too young. But anyway, Kobayashi does find Godzilla on this like chain of icy islands or like icebergs, and Tim and Tsukiyoko lead the military planes out there, and they start attacking Godzilla, and somewhat inexplicably, Kobayashi just like bravely but stupidly dives towards Godzilla, and Godzilla hits him with a blast of his atomic heat ray, and Kobayashi dies. Poor Kobayashi crashes into the wall. and Tsukioka is devastated.
It was sad.
Was it?
Yeah.
So quick. I was sad.
It's so quick.
I loved him.
There's no preamble
He was
whatsoever
so
to this
nice.
man's death. It's just...
Yeah.
And it's completely ambiguous as to whether he was doing it intentionally because of the avalanche capabilities of crashing, or if he just crashed.
No, I don't. I think he just crashed, and then they discovered the avalanche.
I suppose it's possible.
In my own humble opinion.
It feels as though he just crashes, and he doesn't get hit.
It certainly is very sudden, but like I said, I'm really in love with their friendship, so I'm caught up that they were separated at last. But it's true that there really seems to be no good reason he dies.
No.
It's not very well set up.
Except the safety of that little girl.
Oh my god.
It's probably for the best, to be honest.
Poor Kobayashi. He's getting it even after he dies. But the remainder of this movie is essentially the pilots, they go to reload, which is a weirdly realistic scene. They're like, okay, we got to go back and get some more missiles. And while they're planning, one of them draws like a really nice mountain on a chalkboard, like with shading and everything.
Beautiful mountain.
Amazing.
Nat Geo quality.
It is.
It's true. And as Sam put it, why did he bother drawing this? This plan is so simple. There's no reason for him to draw this.
It's as though he drew it on the chalkboard first, and then they catered the plan to the drawing. Because their plan is like literally, it's like he draws like the shape of a U, like the letter U, and is like, we swoop down here and drop some stuff over his head, and that's the plan. Like that's the plan. But there's this like beautiful mountain with like shading and texture on this chalkboard, and I think that he drew the mountain, and then they were like, well, the plan's really simple, and he's like, well, mountain stays. I drew it. I spent the time drawing this chalk drawing that I could have spent saving Kobayashi, but it stays.
Well, maybe the point of it was because Kobayashi crashed into it. He was like, "You guys, you do know there's a mountain there, right? You gotta really be sure you see that."
Wait, you mean if he had drawn the mountain earlier, Kobayashi would have known to look out for a mountain?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Look out for one of these.
But yeah, now that they all know what a mountain looks like, they go back and they launch some missiles and they bury Godzilla up to his neck in ice. And then Tsukioka does his "smile, you son of a bitch," and buries Godzilla's head.
Sorry,
in
did
revenge.
he say that?
No,
Or
I'm
that
just
was you
being-
adding that in?
Yeah,
But
I'm just quoting Jaws.
I'm pretty certain that what he says is you're off to a not so happy course.
I thought he said. I thought he was telling Godzilla, "You're under arrest for general crime."
God, that sounds like a great line from like Tremors or something.
It would be. But yeah, Godzilla gets buried in ice. Tsukioka goes back to his girlfriend, and I guess the moral is he's happy that he's brave now.
Although he is, I will say, he says that in narration. He's like, "Thank God, finally I was brave for once. That was my arc." But he isn't all that affected by Kobayashi's death.
Yeah.
That's kind of a bummer.
Like they were way more affected in the original when Serizawa, you know?
Yeah. Serizawa dies, and there's a moment where everyone hangs their heads and they put their hats over their chest, and a girl choir sings. I think that was a different part of the movie. And in this one, in this one, there's like a moment they're in the plane. They're like, "Did he just die? Okay, that's it. We're gonna fight some more."
Yeah, the girlfriend was the most affected.
Yes, yeah, she was.
It's true. It's because she has to write that awkward letter to his schoolgirl girlfriend.
They did have a little flirtation. I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to say anything here, but...
Are you implying that Hidemi was not entirely loyal?
In a Godzilla movie?
We would be 2 for 2 for affairs.
It's true.
It's a good point.
Though I'm pretty sure she's a little too old for him.
Alright, that's a good place to...
Wait, there's one last thing. There's the great horrible narration where at the end of the film there's a beautiful shot of a sunset and the narration says, "We looked up at the moon in the sky."
That's right.
They can't even. It's right there. There's just narration, and they can't even call it the right thing.
It is the other side of the globe.
It is.
That's true. Maybe they call the moon the sun in Japan.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Oh, I get what you're
Instead of the
saying.
rising sun, it's actually the moon.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Sam.
Because we would be seeing the sun right then. Wait, the moon right then.
I think you're thinking...
I think he's got it. I think
I got... Okay.
Makes sense.
So in the
now.
same way that when it's winter here, it's summer in Japan...
Nope.
So is the fact that what they call the moon, we call the sun.
This is a little segment that I'm cheesily calling Lost in Translation for now, until we come up with something more original. And this is where we will cover the changes between the Japanese and the American version, if we don't get to them earlier. But we actually did talk about most of the changes in this one. They kind of just naturally came up. But there is one that I wanted to come back to. So in this one, in the American version rather, the scientists say that Godzilla is attracted to flares because it enrages and attracts him? Question mark. But in the Japanese version, Dr. Yamane gives Godzilla a very important piece of his personality, actually, when he says, "The lights remind Godzilla of the light of the nuclear weapon test that awoke in him. And it reminds him of what humanity did to him." And so when he sees the bright lights of like a human-created explosion, he wants to go there and attack whoever is causing them.
That is much more interesting.
Yeah, makes much more sense. Gee, I wonder why the American translation would want to leave that out.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Gee, I don't know. And yeah, apparently, to give you guys some explanation over the weird Kobayashi thing, the Japanese version has a whole subplot threaded throughout the movie where he's looking through his wife through a matchmaker because he's jealous of Hidemi and Tsukioka's relationship. He wants something like that for himself.
What?
And so the picture is the picture the matchmaker sent him, and he's like finally getting ready to meet a girl who wants to marry him for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, not to harp on this, but someone is setting him up with a child. This incriminates two people.
Yeah.
It's him and the matchmaker.
So there's a licensed professional has set him up with this very young looking girl.
They're both guilty of general crimes right now.
Oh, I think it's getting specific.
What if the matchmaker just got Kobayashi's application and it was like in like crayon, like poorly written, and he's like, you know what, this guy's never gonna get anybody. I may as well just like send him a picture of my daughter, and
oh no,
you know,
see, I thought
he'll be happy about it.
I thought you were gonna say that the matchmaker got the application, just assumed it was a child. and just set him up with a
better.
child. And then,
That's better.
and then there's a great sequel to this if Kobayashi doesn't die, and he's like, "I'm here to meet my bride," and she's like, "What? You're an adult?" Put all the writing in crayon and the way you write your R's backwards.
You're right. That's even better. But yeah, that's essentially the differences between the Japanese and American version, along with everything we talked about earlier, all the stock footage. So, do you guys think that it would play better in the Japanese version, or do you think that you were happy enough to see the American one?
I like the American version just because we had so much fun with these weird lines like all men are like fish in a woman's net and general crime. I can't imagine that the Japanese version would have that kind of stuff.
No. I feel like the Japanese are better at calling the moon the right thing.
I think I might have been slightly more emotionally involved in the Japanese version, but again, yeah, the humor factor is worth it, maybe.
Originally, the American version was going to be even more severely changed. They were going to eliminate all the scenes with the Japanese actors and just keep the monster footage and record a totally new American story around it. And Toho even sent newly built suits of Anguillus and Godzilla to the United States for like additional filming to like bridge the scenes. But then the company that was doing it was like, wait a minute, we don't want to spend money on this. And so they let the rights lapse, and Warner Brothers picked it up and did this dumb job.
Wow.
I thought you said dumb job for a second.
Well, that's true, too.
Wait, guys, is it too late to get the suits and still do this?
They're out there somewhere.
Let's do it.
We just gotta find them.
On the next episode, we're watching Rodan.
I will tell you this much about Rodan. It's in color. It's our first color movie. And it's going to be all color from here on out.
Wow.
The magic of the movies is arriving. And
My memory of this last one is that it was in color. That we just watched.
Wow.
that's frightening.
That's pretty bad.
In America, this movie was subtitled Rodan, the Flying Monster. So we're gonna see some aerial action.
Is he looking for fish?
Yeah, they got him on board. He said, sign me up.
Yeah, he watched Godzilla Raids Again, and he's like, I gotta get in on this. And with that, I think it's time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us, Ed and Sandra. We really appreciated your
thank you for having us.
inputs.
It was
Of
fun.
course. Yes, maybe you'll be back sometime in the future. There are a lot of movies we're going to cover.
Be glad to.
Any final thoughts, Sam and Joanna?
Nah, I laid it all out there.
Until next.
There's no holding back when it comes to Godzilla Raids Again. Well, I hope that you all had a good time listening, and if you want to watch along with us, we highly encourage that. We would love it. So if you want to be ready for next episode, you need to go watch Rodan. I think we're going to watch the Japanese version this time, although either one should be fine. There's not too much of a difference in the versions on this one. And so, yeah, go and watch Rodan, and we will see you next time on Godzillavangelists.
Woo!
Yay!
Godzilla Evangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, is brought to you by me, Ryan Sargent, and my friends Joanna Brodecki and Sam Schlenker. We'd like to thank our editor and mixer, Zachary Stanton-Savitz. All our incredible music is composed by Robert Mai, and our wonderful artwork is drawn by Cassidy Stone. Our social media was coordinated with style by Lauren Sargent. We'd like to give special thanks to our families, to Michelle Delgado, and to the wonderful artists who made the movies that we talked about today. Godzillavangelists is a satirical, critical work not affiliated or endorsed by Toho, Legendary Pictures, or anyone behind the Godzilla series. Visit our website at godzillavangelists.com. We're on Twitter at Godzillavangelists, and also Instagram, also at Godzillavangelists. Check out our SoundCloud and YouTube channel as well. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you join us next episode. In the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.